What is up, friends? I'm joining you after my class this morning. I wanted to make a quick video introducing spinal rotation movement. In an Essentrics workout, we bring our spine through all its planes of action. So lateral flexion, forward and back flexion, and rotation, and then combinations therein. Each of these ranges of motion is worth its own individual video, but rotation is one of the trickiest, and it's one of the ones that we really need to work on both mobility and stability. You'll often hear people talk about creating torque or rotational forces in the spine, hugely important for all kinds of rotational sports, which are all sports, because all movement requires, check out my shoulders. When I'm running, there's a rotational aspect of all movement. Just how much power are you trying to create with that rotation? Dance, golf, baseball, etc. Right? I could go on. Anyway, it's tricky because you might hear about creating torque force, but you also might hear about creating anti-torque force, which is resisting rotation in your spine, which is equally important for sport as it is for daily life and being safe. Something as simple as getting up off the ground. Say I'm going to push myself off the ground here. If I don't have the strength in my arm and in my lats and in my shoulder muscles and my core, then what does my body do? It rolls, right? I have to be able to anti-rotate as much as I need to be able to create rotation. That's not really as much rotation for my spine. That was more my shoulder. But I need to be able to create rotation and resist rotation. I also need to create rotation and then resist from here. So this gets a little tricky, as you can tell. So here's how I would introduce rotational movement in an Essentrics workout if I had 20 minutes to do so every time. You'll often see us do what we call windmills, which are these awesome, beautiful, elegant, really delicious swimming-like movements where we're rotating our rib cage and our shoulder girdle and our shoulder joint, and we sometimes take it over a lunge, and it feels amazing. But first and foremost, before we can have all that fun and make it big and full body, we need to get a grasp on the rotational aspect of the spine that is the element that is most critical to making that functional, safe, and strengthening. So here's what I want you to think about. First things first, most of us rotate more intuitively forward than back, right? I can rotate the left over my center, or I can think about pulling the right behind me. Both of those muscular systems are associated with rotation, in this case, across my own body, from the left side, okay? And across my body from the right side. Now my head's a little leaning forward, I'm trying to make eye contact with you, but I want you to imagine if I were to just use my abs rolling on this side, eventually I'm going to run out of rotation and I'm going to start creating forward flexion and more of a roll pattern here, because that's what these muscles do. I need to counteract that with pulling up on the muscles on my back on the other side. So I make this a genuine rotation across my axis, keeping it in this plane, not distorting the plane. Later, we can absolutely add rotation with flexion and extension of our spine, and we will because we need to, and our spine is designed to do that. But I want to know what I'm doing when, and I want to be able to feel what is safe, especially if I have a spine that I haven't moved this way in a long time, or I sit at a desk, or I have a spinal injury, and I don't want to create a spinal injury. Not on my class, guys. Not on my watch, not in my class. Then I need to be able to do this safely. So, first, the most intuitive. Give me ab-driven rotation across your body. Ab-driven, so upper, final timeout. I also want to get as much rotation as I can from everything above my waist and try to stabilize, and then only when I've run out of range of motion, sorry for that horrible clicking, when I've run out of range of motion in my upper spine, my thoracic spine and my cervical spine, my neck and rib cage spine, only when I've run out of rotation at this upper portion will I call on lower rotation. Our spine, the vertebra of our spinal column are each designed structurally. The vertebrae are shaped and oriented differently to accommodate different ranges of motion in different planes. So that is, they move more or less in the different directions that we talked about moving the spine. We want to respect those naturally formed capacities of the different segments of our spine. And many of us, from our lifestyle, get a very rigid upper back and a rigid neck that's stuck forward and shoulders that are hunched and that can't really rotate well. And we certainly don't get this definition of the rotation in our upper back, right? We can very dangerously just hinge at where the lumbar and the thoracic and lumbar curves come together. That really becomes a weak link in a lot of people's bodies, and a lot of low back pain and injury is a result of not getting the mobility up here and then relying on it down here, where we tend to be less stable because I have more weight on that part of my body. The curve of my low back can very easily be compromised by distending it with the weight of my internal organs. We have some obstacles working against us. Gravity and the shape of our body. This is a beautiful shock absorbing, energy driving system, but if I don't preserve it, I'm going to get hurt there. And we know from low back and SI, compression, injuries, herniated discs, etc., that this is vulnerable. So our goal is protect here, mobilize from essentially your waist, your navel, your natural waist up is what you can ballpark it, but it's your thoracic mobility, cervical mobility, lumbar mobility to an extent, but mostly protect and stabilize. So here, trying again. Abs, belly button stays forward. How far can you go before you start to roll this shoulder down? Keeping the shoulders as level as you can. Other way. You're not necessarily going to go very far. All right? The next spine, I'm going to stay facing you, more or less, but you would, at each of these increments, you'd be, can my neck still swivel? If I'm walking, can I look with my chest and my eyes without tripping myself, without crossing over, and without compromising my back? Make it functional. Now, I'm getting as much out of my abs as I can to make that rotation. I want more. I want to generate more rotation in my upper body, muscularly generated. I'm not going to use a prop. I'm not going to wedge myself on something. Under your own strength. Keep it safe. Keep it responsible to your body. Abs on one side, upper back on the opposite side. Imagine pushing and now pull. Now my elbow's going to get in the way, but I'm pulling with the muscles of my upper back. It's kind of helpful to appreciate that your abs run in all these different directions, this way and the diagonals. Your back muscles, the ones that are moving your spine, as opposed to the ones that are more associated with moving your arms, that also have a role, but let's look at the spinal movers first. They run at this sort of upward sweeping pattern. So they don't have a very direct pull the way my abs can like crank across. Right? They're designed to do that. The upper back has more of a, you have to sort of picture the network of muscles pulling more diagonally, like on a gentle oblique diagonal from rib cage to low back. So picture that. They're not going to have the same rotational power, but they are going to help resist the roll, and they are going to finesse the rotation so that you're not hinging at your midline. Instead, you're also giving me beautiful spiral staircase. Every vertebra, I want you to visualize every vertebra from your belly button up is contributing a small slice of that rotational staircase. Okay, so abs, upper back, and you can, once you have neutral arm, it's just hanging straight down from where I was able to get it to with my ribs. Both sides, abs, upper back. Belly button's fighting forward. That's why I tucked my shirt in so cute like this, so that you can see those diagonal lines. I want you to appreciate that I'm creating twist. If I weren't to do that, right, my hips would just go. I still have some rotation there, but I still have a little bit of lines because my shirt might be tucked in too tight. But you get the idea, right? I'm fighting to pull that way as I go further here. Now, again, to get that finesse, I'm also going to call on the muscles that are more on my back rather than the back of my back, right? The ones that are more for my upper arm movement. They play a major role in our postural health, stability of our whole upper body and core, and our upper body strength. So I'm not dismissing their role. We just don't want to rely on them to do the muscle work of the back muscles, because we want the back muscles also contributing. Weak extensor muscles of our spine is a recipe for a really sad existence. So we would need both the spinal muscles and the upper back muscles. So talking to the upper back, abs, back muscles on the opposite side, so of the back, and then upper back more superficial, traps, lats, rhomboids, etc. Pull on them. So I'm pulling now, I'm squeezing my shoulder blade towards my spine. I'm still fighting with my belly button forward, and I'm going to give it a little more juice from these upper abs, and I can get a little more rotation. Belly button is still forward. I'm trying to finesse the rotation I'm getting from the waist up. Abs, back muscles on the opposite side, upper back and superficial on my back muscles of the other side. If that doesn't make sense to you, send me a note in the chat. Maybe I'll list the muscles below what I'm referring to so you can look up images. Now, once, and again, of course, your neck spine all day. Cervical spine is the most mobile, right? Draw your figure eights. I don't want to do it and get dizzy on camera, but make your neck spine move as much as you can. This right now is a like a lower spine mobilization exercise, because we want to imagine that I could be looking around, directing my gaze, and also having it work dependently, like working with and independently of my spinal rotation. Now, if it's safe for you to also rotate further down your body, you absolutely want to. We just don't want to neglect this. This is the most important part of the exercise, is that you're getting the thoracic rotation and mobility. Huge. And also flexion and lateral flexion, by the way, as well. We absolutely will do all of those things in the workout. But this is a tricky one because most of us lack these muscles and the awareness. These upper back muscles, the extensor muscles, they are all checked out on us. And so when we go to move, the first thing that we twist at is our low back. And that is why we have a lot of low back issues. Our low back doesn't like to rotate this much, and it certainly doesn't like to rotate in lieu of muscles and the portions of our spine that are supposed to, right? The same with other ranges of motion, like flexion being a huge one, right? We just do way too much of this and not enough this and this. This, not this. Just an example. Okay. Back to rotation. If it's safe for you to rotate your lowermost spine, it's because you are sufficiently decompressed and pulled up. Watch my video on posture, pulling up as much as you can from your center so that you're not mortaring and pestiling your vertebra as you do. Abs and back, you know the drill. More abs, more upper back. And then allow the belly button to go. I might have already gone a little bit because I was thinking ahead. Belly button's going to go. It's going to pull on this pelvis. As it pulls the pelvis, I'm going to feel that leg rotate in as well. Make sure that feels comfortable. It's not weight on that leg. I'm not hurting the knee, but feel how far you can go. I'm stuck on my mat. Can you swivel on the floor? Right? So segment at a time. Where do you need rotation from in your sport, in your daily life? Where do you feel stuck? Do you get to a point and you're like, oh, I'm going to get nerve pain and singeing if I rotate there. That hurts my foot. That hurts my knee. That hurts my hip. Use this beautiful full body, abs, back, more upper back, more abs, letting the leash out, down, letting the abdominal pull. Wind it up. Wind it up. Don't just collapse. Wind it up. Go slow and mindfully, and then let it pull. Full body process from the crown of your head, right? From the crown of your head, rotating through the neck, beautiful spiral staircase in your upper back, pulling across your lumbar, pulling through the pelvis. There's weight. I'm swiveling on that foot actively. Watch the front knee. Be careful. Swivel around, right? As much rotation as you can find. And come out of it safely. Let's do one more each way. Abs and back. More of each. If it's safe, if it's not safe for you to rotate your low back, then you're going to go straight to pelvis. And you're going to move this as a unit. If it is safe for you and you're not getting hot singeing nerve pain, which is a sign that you are strong enough in your posture to decompress your low back, then you have permission from your body, right? Upper back, lower back, hip, knee, and foot. Same thing. Again, if I have a sensitive low back, I'm going to bypass it. I'm going to stabilize there, mobilize and stabilize. And practice doing that for daily life. Upper back, possibly across the belly button. Otherwise, move from the hip. Don't rotate here. Move this as a unit. Swivel on that back leg. Otherwise, rotate it, and then it pulls the back leg. That is your ideal, of course, to have mobility at all the pieces, but you don't rush it, and you respect where your body's at today, and you work towards it. All right, so finally, we would then add arms to this, right? Then we're going to add our beautiful other ranges of motion. You can see some side flexion in this, and that's going to become part of my windmill. Rotate, side flexion, rotation, making it lungier, right? We're going to do all kinds of fun stuff with it. We also might go backwards. So I'm going to cross my body and then open and rotate the other way. I'm going to cross my body, flexion, extension, rotating the other way, right? One is an emphasis of rotating abs first across. The other one has this feeling of pulling from the back on the opposite side. Each one stimulates your body and your spine in a different way. Each one is extremely valuable. From the foot to your neck, right? From the foot to the insertion into your skull, this is extremely valuable. That's why I wanted to take all this time to break it down. I hope you followed it along with me. Do versions of it each day. Make it a practice. Explore your body. Stay safe. Stay injury-free. Come to class so we can make it more fun.